As you can see, we're getting to the end of this chapter, chapter 2. Last time, of course, we finished on verse 11, which says, "Many nations shall join themselves to the Lord and be my people, and I'll dwell in the midst of you." And now into verse 12, it's even more specific of the Lord dwelling in the midst of them. It says, "The Lord shall inherit Judah." On the surface, it might seem a strange thing that the Lord should inherit his own land. Normally, we use the word inherit in the sense of maybe a son inheriting something from his father, something being passed on from somebody else, which of course doesn't happen with God. He owns everything from the outset. The sense of it is to repossess. He will repossess, as if to say that he has rejected it or disowned it at some point. And we know that is true, that because of the rebellion and the sinfulness of Israel, of the Jews, God has, more than once in history, he has given the land over to the Gentiles, and they tread it underfoot for a particular time that God has appointed. Of course, in reality, he owns it, but it's just the way that it's expressed, that he's just sort of stepped aside and let somebody else move in, which he has done in the past. And when it talks about the Lord inheriting Judah, it's referring to particularly the land of Judah, as it goes on to say his portion in the Holy Land. And as we know, going right back into the days of Moses, God divided the land up into portions for the various tribes, and he assigned a particular section for the tribe of Judah, and that particular section is where Jerusalem was situated, which of course became the divinely appointed capital of the kingdom of God. Judah, as you all know, Judah was one of Jacob's 12 sons, and right back in Jacob's day, it was indicated that the tribe of Judah would be the royal tribe. Then in Genesis 49, prophecies are given by the Spirit of God through Jacob in relation to the different tribes, and in relation to Judah, it says the scepter, which is the symbol of royalty, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. And just one of the many amazing prophecies, because back in those days there was no talk, there was no sign about any particular tribe being a royal tribe. There was no indication of any particular descendant being the king. Normally it was the firstborn who would be the head of the house, who would act as the priest and who would act as the ruler, and that was Reuben. He was the firstborn, but he forfeited his position through misconduct. And you probably all remember the story. He slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Simeon, I think who was next. He disqualified himself by the violence, the unnecessary violence that he manifested towards the Shechemites. So the firstborn and the secondborn, and it affected the future of the tribes. It's quite amazing, really. So that it was indicated that Judah would be the tribe appointed to be the royal tribe, and of course it was inevitable that the tribal allotment, the land assigned to Judah, would incorporate the capital city, the city that God appointed to be the capital of his kingdom, which of course was Jerusalem. So the Lord shall inherit Judah. He's going to take possession of it again. In other words, God is going to be there in a way that he's never been before, not even in the best of times in history, because this is all relating to the ultimate future of the second coming of Jesus. He's going to repossess, reoccupy Judah, his portion in the Holy Land, and he shall choose Jerusalem again. And of course, the new Jerusalem, that is the city of God, which we know as heaven itself, is going to descend from above, as John saw it in Revelation, and it's going to come down and it's going to rest upon Mount Zion, which is in the land of Judah. So it's no doubt a very, very special portion of the Holy Land, the most special portion of all the tribal portions that are in that land. And of course, as we know, the new Jerusalem, it contains the throne of God. It's the home of the angels, and it'll be the home of the saints. And we saw in our Hebrew study in Hebrews chapter 12, so it's about we haven't come to a mountain burning with fire, but we've come to the new Jerusalem, the city of God, to an innumerable company of angels in festal array, indicating that this is our hope, this is the prospect of our calling, and we will be with the angels, as Morris was ministering on Sunday night, and we're not all going to be walking around with long faces and being depressed and despondent, but festal array. That really says a lot. So we'll be up there kicking up our heels with the angels and having a great glory time, that's for sure. The days of depression and despondency and all that will be well and truly over. It's amazing to think. I mean, I think if everybody was honest, they'll all admit that you have a lot of depressing times in life, in spite of being in the Lord. A lot of depressing times when things just seem to go horribly wrong and really, really get you down. But in the age to come, when we're in that city and immortalised, we will never, ever, in the rest of eternity, be depressed, never be despondent. It'll all be joy unspeakable, full of glory.
Amen.
According to Ezekiel 47 and 48, the land of promise is going to be divided into parallel strips for the 12 tribes running east to west, and also from the river Euphrates in the north to the river of Egypt in the south. And way back in Genesis chapter 15 verse 18, God actually promised that to Abraham. He talked about the boundaries of the promised land, and he said it would be from the river Euphrates to the river of Egypt. And in Solomon's, I think it was in Solomon's day, that was pretty much attained, but it was a fairly short-lived occupation. And of course, the land of promise today that the Jews occupy is well and truly shrunk.
Yeah.
It's so much smaller than, and there's still arguments about them having the right to be in some parts, like the West Bank and I mean the Gaza Strip. That's part of the promised land. Yes, there's some huge land changes that are coming up in the future, and Ezekiel chapter 47 and 48 actually talks about the allotments of the tribes in the future age, and stretching from the river Euphrates right down to the river of Egypt. And in the midst of it, between the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, will be a very, very special portion that Ezekiel's prophecy refers to as the Holy Oblation. I don't know how many of you have read that section through Ezekiel, but it refers to a very special area called the Holy Oblation. And the oblation means offering, a special offering of land to the Lord and for the Lord's service in the age to come. And this portion includes Mount Zion, which of course is where the city of God, the New Jerusalem, is going to be sitting or resting. And this portion, the Holy Oblation, also includes a mile square temple at the foot of Mount Zion, just to the south, right in I think Ezekiel chapter 40. He describes that. And the measurements are given, so we know it's about a mile square. And of course, that city is for the mortal worshippers, who various prophecies tell us are going to be coming from all parts of the planet to worship the Lord and to acknowledge his sovereignty. And there's also did I say a city? I should have said a temple. It's a temple, a mile square temple, where the mortals will worship. And further to the south of that, there's a 1.5 mile square city where the worshippers who come from all the different countries, where they will actually be accommodated. Because obviously there'll have to be somewhere for them to be accommodated. And we read in Ezekiel that the sons of Zadok and other priests will actually inherit this holy portion, in which areas are set aside in it for growing food, that it'll be food for themselves, but not only for themselves, but also for the mortal worshippers, because there are going to be lots of them, and they're going to need to be fed, because they are mortal. And Ezekiel also refers to a portion set aside for the prince, who we take to be Jesus, which is an interesting statement, because we know that the city of God, which is resting upon the top of Mount Zion, Jesus, he comes from there, but it seems that there'll be a portion in this holy oblation where he can go, which would imply he won't necessarily always be up in the city. And that would make sense, because the throne of David, which is going to be restored, will be in that mile square temple. It tells you that in Ezekiel. And God's throne, of course, is in the city of God, which is resting upon Mount Zion, because there are two thrones. There's the throne of the Father, which is in the heaven, and there's the throne of the Son, which is the restored throne of David. And Jesus indicated that in one of the messages of the churches, where he said that he who overcomes, to him will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I am sitting with my Father in his throne. So there are the two thrones. And Jesus will sit upon the throne in the temple where the mortals come up to worship, and he will be judging. And he will be judging cases and making decisions in relation to the nations, because there'll be national leaders coming up to worship, and that is where he will be. So it's not surprising that there is actually a portion set aside for him in this holy oblation area, where he can actually go for whatever reason, and not necessarily always go back up into the holy city. Anyway, I've got a couple of pictures I want to show you in relation to this. If Kevin could bring them up on the screen, so you can see all these strips here represent the tribe, the land that the tribes will inherit. They're all running quite differently designed from how they were in Moses' day. You had sort of a little round bit there and a little round bit there and round bit down here. Yeah. But so these are up from the river Euphrates right down to the river down here, stretching across to the river of Egypt. This is the that is the Gulf of Suez there,
Yeah.
and the
Gulf
Gulf
of
of
Aqaba.
Aqaba is up there, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gives you an idea. It's the Mediterranean coast, all coming down here. So that is basically what it will look like. And there's the tribe of Judah, and there's the tribe of Benjamin, and this is the Holy Oblation in here. Now, the next picture, Kevin, brings us up closer to the Holy Oblation. You can see here's the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba down here. So this area in black is and it belongs to Judah up here, and as I said, tribe of Benjamin is down here. Now Jerusalem, see this red dot here? That's basically where Jerusalem is, and that's where the mile square temple will be, that the worshippers from around the world will come to worship the Lord. That's where the throne of David will be, in there. Further to the south, down towards Hebron, you've got the 1.5 mile square city, and that's where the worshippers will be accommodated and where they will be fed. And there is land all around here that can be farmed for the producing of food. Now, I personally believe that, we know that there's a reference to the river of living water that will flow out into the Dead Sea here. I personally believe it's the river of water that's up in the city of God, and I believe it flows out of the city down Mount Zion, and it flows under the threshold of this temple here, and it flows through the Mount of Olives, which has been divided by the big earthquake. It flows between the divisions there, and flows into the Dead Sea and heals it. Now, that's easy enough to understand, but it also says that the Dead Sea will consist of marine life, fish, that are in the oceans. You've got the Mediterranean Ocean here, and you've got the Indian Ocean out over here. And, okay, if he wants to, God can just create fish and throw them in there. I personally don't think that's how it's going to happen. I personally think that the huge earthquake that's going to occur when Jesus returns is going to have huge land transformation effects. I've already talked in the past about how when John was on the high mountain here, and he said there was no more sea. Well, he was looking across at the Mediterranean Sea, I believe. He wouldn't mean the Dead Sea, because we know that's going to stay. That'll be there. But he couldn't. There was no more sea, and I believe that Mediterranean Sea is going to recede, because the city of God, 600 kilometres square, if the centre of it is here, well then it's going to stretch 300 kilometres across there, and 300 kilometres across there, 300 kilometres up there, and 300 kilometres down there. So on the western side, it's going to be over what is at the moment the sea. But I believe that sea is going to recede, and the land will increase in size. And there are statements somewhere to that effect, of the land being increased in size. So if that is true, I mean, the Mediterranean Sea is not going to disappear altogether. It goes much further than 300 kilometres. It'll still be further over here. I believe that same earthquake that's going to cause that upheaval is going to alter. This is a depression, a land depression, an Araba, all the way down here. I believe that will be linked with the Gulf of Aqaba, and that this will be one big lake. not a lake probably, the ocean. I believe that the ocean's going to come in and incorporate all of that, which means the fish from the ocean will get up here. Not only that, but worshippers from around the world coming to worship the Lord in this temple here, they will be able to come up in ships. They'll come up in ships through here, and there they are. There's the city where they'll be accommodated, and then they no doubt walk up to the temple up there. So there's a few thoughts. The Ezekiel, you've got about 8 chapters that cover all these sort of things. A lot of it's not easy reading, but that's just basically an overview, in my opinion, as to what it's all about. Any comments about that? I don't know, like if this is what's going to happen, I don't know what level above sea, what level in relation to sea level the Dead Sea would become.
But they've been worried, aren't they? Worried that the sea actually is higher already. The sea level is higher now than the Dead Sea.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Dead Sea is the lowest point on the planet.
Yeah.
I think.
So, obviously we don't know. God knows. But if there was an upheaval of the land to bring it to the same level as the sea, then all of that's going to be at sort of equilibrium at that point. Because if it remained so far down and that opened up, you're going to have a very big sea inside there.
So there's no doubt in my mind there are going to be huge land transformations. When it's all over.
So do you think that how you've got Judah and Benjamin and that sort of currently held within the old borders that the Bible had, that when that sea to the left, the Mediterranean, recedes, that their land will get wider, or it'll still
that's what I think. I think so.
You kind of sort of think that because of that whole size of the city of God being what it is, and with the whole what God's trying to do is, I've arrived, now I exist, I'm the most important, therefore I'm the most exalted. My kingdom actually needs to be the biggest and the most exalted as well. So increasing those borders for that landmass sort of sits with that as well.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I mean, we may not have all the details correct, but I think generally speaking, that is sort of the picture of it. It's a very special bit of land, and of course, talking about the possibility of the different tribal allotments being extended. You've got to remember that for the next 1,000 years, the Jews who will be living in those tribal allotments, they're not going to be persecuted. They're not going to be eliminated. Their population is not going to be diminished, as has been happening all through history. They're going to grow and just multiply, and would probably need more land than what is actually shown on that picture there.
The temple, Barry, that's 1,600 kilometres, you said a mile. When does that get built?
After the Lord returns.
Yeah. So the temple that the beast power is going to stand in, it's a different temple completely. Yeah. That one's going to get bold as well.
No, I mean, this temple is a mile square.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Those latter chapters in Ezekiel, Barry, from which obviously that land inheritance is derived from, are there Christians that have tried to say that was all sort of historical in some shape or form?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
It'd be difficult to do.
Yeah, because I was going to say Israel's they've never had their borders distributed like that, have
No. But one of the sad things is that there are well-meaning Christians who have made a big thing about this mile-square temple here, and who believe that that will be the home of the immortalised saints. They don't believe in the city of God. They don't believe in the 600 kilometre square city of God. They spiritualise that all away, regard it as all symbolic. And they say that the sons of Zadok means righteous or righteousness, and they maintain that the sons of Zadok are the saints, the immortal saints. I know that pictures have been drawn up, artist impressions of what that temple will look like, and some churches actually have them displayed on the wall in their meeting places, sort of as representing that's where we're going to be. Which is rather sad in a way, because as you read through Ezekiel's prophecies, that temple there is clearly officiated by mortal priests, the sons of Zadok. The sons of Zadok are mentioned there because those of you who are familiar with the history, back in the days of David, you had Zadok was a priest, and Abiathar. They were the two prominent high priests. And later, when I think it was Adonijah rebelled against David, Abiathar sided with him, but Zadok sided with David. And as a result, Abiathar was demoted. And so the reference to sons of Zadok is quite significant, really, because it's like the reward of being faithful to David, who represented the Messiah.
Yeah.
You know.
But the sons of Zadok can't be the immortalised saints, though, can they? Because doesn't it talk in those later chapters of Ezekiel, from about chapter 40 on, talks, refers several times to those sons of Zadok, but there's references to sort of death and that sort of thing. That
Sweating
which obviously won't be the experience of the immortalised saints. So it can't refer to them, can it?
No, there's quite a number of reasons, really, that it's very difficult to regard them as immortal saints. But it's significant that mortal Jews will act, as the officiators of that particular temple at Jerusalem. You could probably link that up with that. I think it's in Zechariah, talks about the time will coming when many from the different nations will grab hold of the skirt of him who is a Jew and say, "We will go with you because we know God is with you." And a reference to the skirt. The priests wore a skirt like a robe, and it could be confirming the priestly role. That they will conduct.
What a turnaround that is for the books.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But that's the way the Lord likes to work, isn't he? He likes to let situations get really down and out, because his plan is to revive it and restore it and make it great, and put to shame those that put their foot in. It's All right, coming back to Zechariah 2 verse 12 there, it refers to the land as the Holy Land. This is the land that has been so defiled, so polluted in the past. It's going to be cleansed, it's going to be hallowed, it's going to be sanctified, all as a result of the coming of the Lord, of the coming of their Messiah. And the implication is that all the inhabitants will be holy. What a turnaround. What a transformation. You know, later on, Zechariah, the last chapter in Zechariah, it says there that even the bills put on the horses will be inscribed with the words, holiness to the Lord. It's an amazing detail, isn't it? When you think about it.
Yeah.
The spirit of prophecy would actually tell you that the bills on the horses are going to be inscribed with holiness to the Lord. I don't know if putting bills on horses has been a popular tradition. I know that in Switzerland they put bills on cows. I've never heard of it being on horses. But also it goes on to say every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holiness to the Lord. A pot, common old pot, you know.
But you know, Barry, if you think about the way the world is, you know, everything's made in Taiwan, made in China, you know what I mean? You know, so you know, they do this obviously to promote, you know, how awesome they are. So why not the Lord? You know.
I mean, you wonder, is it saying that the holiness to the Lord, you know, treating the Lord as the holy God that He is, and being holy yourself, is going to be such a major preoccupation. It's going to be so important to people that they're actually going to inscribe the word on pots, you know, and on the bills of the horses. So, almost like it's going to be a continual reminder, especially when you overcook your meal and turn it black. You know, but you still see
we're
it's
still
holy.
We're still going to burn
the
food, are we, Barry?
Holy to the Lord. And of course, relating this to today, back in biblical times, the horses were the main mode of transport.
Yeah.
Today they're not. Today motor cars are, and as you know, it's quite common for people to inscribe things on their cars.
Yep.
So personalised plates sometimes. My personalised plate, which Ruth and Shane bought for me years ago, I remember Ruth came to me, she says, Dad, if you had a personalised plate, what would you put on it? I said, I wouldn't buy one. The price of them, I wouldn't buy. Oh, you're just supposing. Just supposing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had actually thought about, I never intended to do it, but I had thought, if I did, what would I put on it? And as you know, I put hodos, which is the Greek word for the way. In Acts, we read about the Christian way is referred to as the way. The Greek word is hodos. And it's quite a good talking point, because people say, why, you're a Hodgson, why have you got hodos? And it's a good cue card, you know, to be able to share about...
talking about how every detail of life, you know, in that kingdom age will be holy to the Lord.
That's the thing.
It's what God also sort of intended Israel to do even under the law to a degree, didn't he? Because like in Deuteronomy 6, he talks about, you know, all the words that I command you, keep them in your heart, teach them to your children. When you walk, talk about them. When you sit down in your house, talk about them. When you lie down, when you rise up, bind them for a sign upon your hand, frontlets between your eyes, write them upon the posts of your house, on your gates. Yeah. So, you know, God was basically cueing the people here, you know, my commandments, put them in your heart, your minds, make them part of your daily life. And of course, it never came to be. Because Israel very quickly sort of apostatized, was more interested in following other gods. But that will be, you know, that instruction, that desire of God even under the law, and I guess it's fitting that it never could be accomplished under the law because sin never got dealt with, and that was the problem.
Right.
But once we get, as you say, to the end of Zechariah, and we get into the kingdom age, that is in fact the way it's going to be. Sin's been dealt with by the Lord, and ultimately sin and death have been cast, destroyed, and there's immortal people who are going to actually fulfill this. And as you say, in even more detail, even the pots and the bells. I mean, he talks about the posts and the gates, but Zechariah is even more detailed, isn't it? So,
Right.
so it's not a new thing. God's desire was for his people to do it way back, but of course they weren't up for it.
No. And of
Well,
course,
in heaven, in the city of God, in heaven, is everything holy?
Right.
Absolutely.
yeah.
There's nothing there that's not. Therefore, God is there amongst them in His city, His heaven. It's got to be holy. He couldn't be there otherwise. And
I don't think we can appreciate fully the deep sense of sanctification that will be like
earth.
in the city of God,
yeah.
where God Himself is, and where the angels are, and sometimes during this life, you can have little sort of glimpses. Just for the way something might happen, and it's just a sensing, it's a higher level of sensing of the holiness and the sanctification of God. And of course, once we attain to immortality in the city of God, it'll be profound. It'll be absolutely profound. All the aspects of carnality and sensuality and that permeate the world today and so easily have their influence on us, it just won't exist. It just won't be there. And I know you're quoting John, where back in Moses' day, talking about inscribing the words of the Lord on the pillars of their houses. And I know, some Christians do that with their letterboxes. Might put a scripture there or something like that, which I think is nice. But then a lot wouldn't do it because they're embarrassed, too embarrassed to think that people think that they're into, that they've got scriptures on their letter. Oh, what kind of a person is that? They've put a Bible quote on their letterbox, Well, I mean, but there you go. See, that's the difference.
Yeah.
That level of thinking, and that is so low compared to what it could be and what it's going to be. Yeah.
And
Larry,
sorry, Karen.
sorry. The size of the kingdom, which is 600 kilometres squared, cubed, and it covers the land of Judah and also the land of Benjamin.
Yeah.
But it also covers over the temple, the mile square temple, and the city below that, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that the kingdom will hover above that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't actually make landfall.
No, I believe it'll be above the clouds. I believe Mount Zion is going to be elevated.
Well, it has to. So I was thinking, otherwise, that puts that city and the mortals that are in it inside the kingdom,
Yeah.
where they can't be, because they can't because God can't have anything that's unclean in front of Him and before Him.
Of course, they'll be ruling over the city of God will be the saints' home. That's where and they will be, as the Lord's ambassadors, they will be sent out from there to different parts of the earth to rule the nations.
Yeah.
Much like you get a New Zealander is sent to New Zealanders are sent to different countries as ambassadors.
Yeah.
They represent New Zealand, and so we as saints, we won't be just always up in the city.
No.
We'll be sent into the earth to rule and to govern and to bring it to heal, to bring it to bow the knee to Jesus.
Absolutely.
We'll be the teachers. We'll be the teachers of the new age, and no doubt one of our jobs will be to make sure that the nations send worshippers, send representatives over to worship the Lord in the Holy Land.
One of the reasons, Tim, as you said, that we believe that city of God will hover. So in other words, the foundations won't be on terra firma, covering that same area of inheritance that the mortals have. One of the reasons we believe that is because in Genesis, when God's created the heavens and the earth, in verse 2, Genesis 1 verse, well, I'll read from verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God, in our English translation, it says the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. But in the Hebrew, it's a word that means to sort of flutter or brood. And it's actually translated in Deuteronomy 32 as like an eagle fluttering over her young. So, the young in the nest there, but the mother's sort of like hovering or fluttering sort of over them. And that's the way God was back in creation. So, if God lives in heaven, in his city, then when he was moving on the earth to create it, he was in his city, he was in his heaven. So we believe there's a consistency there, and that's the way it'll all work. That the earth will be down there, as Barry said, Mount Zion will be heaved up so there'll be access to it, but it'll sort of be hovering over it all. And of course, the light of that city will give light, to the mortal population.
The sun, the moon will not be necessary.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, when Jacob at Bethel, he had that vision, that dream, and he saw the angels of God ascending
and
descending. I've often sort of put those two things together with the city of God, and which suggests that there'll be I don't know whether we call it a stairway, certainly a spiritual elevator of some description, where the angels of God are ascending and descending. And I think he was given a vision of that future at that time.
Yeah, the King James Bible says a ladder, but a lot of the modern translations say stairway, which I think is better. But this reference here to the Holy Land, which it's still called, is a misnomer. There's nothing holy. There's nothing holy about that land. In fact, in Revelation, it's referred to as Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, and that's not the first time. Back in Isaiah's day, he said the same thing. He called the land, or Jerusalem, was it, Sodom and Gomorrah, because, and I know that Tel Aviv is regarded as the
gay capital of the East.
The capital of homosexuality, isn't it? Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. But it will ultimately be holy. In Isaiah 62, verse 11 and 12, it says that when the Lord comes and his reward is with him, Israel shall be called, quote, the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, sought out and not forsaken. Because prior to that, they have been forsaken. We know the end time invasion, there's going to be a massacre of unprecedented proportions. The death is going to be worse than the Holocaust. Two-thirds, and the final third will be purged as well. And why? Because of unholiness. Unholiness is going to be, in spite of them having a temple, it's not going to make a lot of difference to their spirituality. And we know from history, having the temple didn't prevent unholiness. And that's why God destroyed it. And that's why it'll get destroyed again. But it has to be, because it's one of the signs of the end the end time. So the Lord is going to repossess Judah, his portion in the Holy Land, and he's going to choose Jerusalem again. Because he originally chose Jerusalem back in David's day. That was way back 1,000 years before Jesus, wasn't it? 3,000 years ago, the Lord chose Jerusalem to be the capital of his kingdom, the place of his throne. But due to apostasy, he overturned it, and that statement in Ezekiel 21 is so good, where the last reigning monarch, King Zechariah, the last king to ever reign from Jerusalem over the Jews, and the prophet Ezekiel said to him, "And thou, profane, wicked prince, whose day has come, I'll overturn it, and it'll be no more until he comes whose right it is, and I'll give it to him." And what God was saying, remove the diadem, take off the crown. I missed that bit. Yeah, remove the diadem, take off the crown. This will not be the same until he comes whose right it is, and I'll give it to him. He whose right it is, of course, is Jesus. And ever since then, that wasn't 3,000 years ago, that was about 600 BC that Zedekiah was the king, so 2,600 years ago. The throne of David was overturned, and the king was deposed, and there's never been another king in Israel since then. But we know Jesus is king, but he wasn't accepted as king by the Jews. But he's going to be, no question about that. And so, you remember in Acts when Jesus rose from the dead, and he appeared during 40 days to the apostles, and they said to him, "Will you at this time restore the kingdom?" They knew that it had to be restored, and to restore the kingdom meant there had to be a king, and of course they accepted him as the king. Will you at this time, now that you're sacrificed for sin and risen from the dead, will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And he said, "It's not for you to know the times and the seasons." I mean, how depressing it would have been if he said to them, "Well, actually, folks,
It's going to be in a long time from now.
2,000 years from now, you might still be waiting. You might still be waiting." And of course, Jesus said, Matthew 25, "When the Son of Man comes in all his glory with all his holy angels, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory." There's quite a theme. It's always been very dear to my heart because it's so misunderstood, it's so mistaken, it's so perverted in so many Christian circles today that they just don't believe. They don't believe that David's throne is going to be restored in Jerusalem and that Jesus will reign from there as king over all the earth. They think God's rubbish the Jews. He's not interested in Jerusalem. There's never going to be a throne of David again. They've written it all off. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
When you say to people, so you believe in Jesus is coming back. Oh, yeah. So what's he going to do when he gets here? Crickets.
Crickets.
I don't know.
Well, I think that's as far as we need to go tonight.